Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gavel Gang Podcast, an insight into the collections we get here at Ewbank's auction house in Surrey. Hello, I'm John Silk of Ewbank's entertainment department here in Surrey. Something very exciting that's come in here in the last week, and it's this fantastic picture. Now, the vendor has brought this in, and he told us that his father was given this by John Lennon in John's Weybridge home called Kenwood, which is on St George's Hill Estate, not 5 miles up the road from here. And it was around 1968, I think, that he was given it. Anyway, here's the picture, and a close-up will reveal it's actually quite torn. Now, the vendor states that when his father was given it, John Lennon was in the process of destroying it, was persuaded to stop and give it to the vendor, who's had it ever since. Now, as soon as I saw the picture, I set to work on my research, trying to place this in John's home where the vendor said it had once been. So what I did was we found a good picture of John Lennon lying on his chaise longue or couch in this Kenwood home, and above John's head I can see what looks like a face shape similar to this. So I've cropped in tightly to that picture above John's head. But when I looked at this picture, I thought, well, that looks a little longer and thinner than our face. But then when you take into account that the picture above John is at quite a distance and quite an angle, it appears somewhat elongated. So I've taken our photograph. Now, this is a new word for me. I learned from my maths teacher friend this week, but I parallelogrammatized our picture. Basically squished it down, turned it to a bit of an angle, reduced the opacity on our picture, which means we can overlay it over the image in John's house, and I think you'll see that's a pretty fine match. So I'm convinced now that this is the picture that was hung there in Kenwood above John Lennon's head there in the 60s, and here it is now. Hey Denise.
Hi John.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you? Another busy day in the entertainment department.
It is, isn't it? We're all busying away.
Busy bees.
But today's going to be exciting.
Oh, it's a very exciting day. It's been a little journey, hasn't it, that you've been involved with as well. Just being very careful and making sure we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, but I think we're there.
With the John Lennon?
With the John Lennon.
Picture. Well, I say the John Lennon picture. This is the picture that once was on the wall in John Lennon's house, and our man's coming in today, any minute now.
Our vendor is coming in this afternoon with some more vinyl and no doubt more memories, because actually while we've been cataloguing and researching, we have jogged his memory a little bit, so he's been able to tell us quite a little bit more provenance, which has been really handy. So
he's going to come in with a few more bits. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Yes.
And I'll talk to you afterwards.
All right.
Hello, well today we're joined by Stephen Clark.
Hello John.
Hello Stephen. Now Stephen has consigned something quite exciting with us. Among other things, a picture that hung in John Lennon's house, Kenwood and St George's Hill, Weybridge, back in the 60s. And we've done a separate video about that, which you can see. So Stephen, what can you tell us about this picture that you brought in?
Well, my father went to John's house. Don't know why he went there, but he was invited into John's house to see John. And whilst he was there, John was clearly in a bit of distress or a bit of a state. Yoko was there, and John was tearing up this piece of artwork. My father managed to stop John and ask him for it, which John then handed it over.
Yep.
My father, not realising at that point, couple of pieces were missing, left the house, and obviously had a piece of John Lennon artwork.
So, well, your dad was Bernard.
That's right.
And
my father was Bernard.
A photographer.
No, he was the director of a photographic company in Weybridge.
Ah, I see.
They were a company called Cave Photographic.
Yep.
And they had 2 or 3 branches, one in Cobham, the other one was Addlestone, I believe, and Weybridge, which was the main branch.
Yeah.
And because it was Weybridge, that's why it serviced St George's Hills and the clients up there, which at the time, John and Ringo were living there. So my father used to take them up cameras, any film they wanted, cameras they wanted changed.
Oh, he supplied gear for them.
That's right.
I see.
So they'd ring up, and rather they wouldn't come into Weybridge to the shop.
Right, because they get mobbed.
Yeah. So they'd phone my father up and say, we want a new camera, or we want a lens, or can you bring us up some film?
Oh,
my father would go up there and do that quite regularly. So
well, Ringo's known as a photography lover. In A Hard Day's Night, he has that little passage where he goes off with his camera, which people liked in the film. And obviously, we know they were well into all their gear. So okay, that's cool. So, did you ever get to go to the house yourself?
Yeah, I never went to John's house that I can recall, but I went to Ringo's house on a couple of occasions. One for a birthday party, which would have been for Zach's birthday party.
Yeah.
And my father would take me up there if he was going up there just to do a delivery or drop off something. So yes, I've been there. But so
that would have been
childhood memories when you're sort of born in '61 and sort of 7 or 8 and being taken up there is it's not easy to recall, but I do remember the.
So you were sort of similar age to some of their kids.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think is Zach a year or two younger than me? Is he? I think. Yeah.
But you would have been at the birthday party.
Yeah, I was at a birthday party. Wow. Yeah, I remember playing in the garden and seem to recall going above to Ringo's drum kits, which were through looked like a round window, a round doorway above. I think it was above the garages where the cars were. Yeah, seem to recall going through a round doorway into where his drum kits were set up and being allowed to. Well, probably not allowed, but we're certainly banging on the drums. That's something that happened.
So I know that estate now, you can't just roll up there and have a look. There's a gatehouse.
That's right, yeah.
Garden. Was it like that back then? Do you remember?
I can't recall. No. I think it was probably more relaxed back then, but now, you can't get past the front gates without an appointment.
But always very posh estate, anyway. Yeah. So what's the story with the picture? So it was given to your father.
Yeah.
Where's it been since then?
It's been in storage. I mean, my father was given many sort of albums and bits of memorabilia when he was working, doing jobs for them. Yeah. Unfortunately, my father got cancer in the late 80s, so he did sell some of the signed albums that he had to raise some cash, because he being self-employed, he needed to raise some money. So what was left was what you now have. And the painting my father didn't part with, thankfully. And in the early 2000s, my father just gave me this box of albums that I thought, which also contained the painting. And it's been in storage ever since. My father died in 2010. And my mother died last year. So I'm in the process of just clearing everything down and opened up the box, and lo and behold, there's the albums and the painting. So.
Well, the albums are nice. There's, as you'll be able to see soon on the Ewbank's website, I think the prize one is Sergeant Pepper, and the inside of the gatefold is signed by each Beatle above their heads. Yes. So that would have been given to...
Yep, that would have been given to my dad by probably Ringo, most likely.
Some others, there's a white album, as what's it called, the collection of oldies, and it's got a factory sample sticker on it, and Abbey Road with a factory sample sticker, so they would have been great first.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably all of the general Beatles stuff would have been given to my father by Ringo. The 2 or 3 bits you've got of John Lennon would have come from John.
Yeah, so the real mystery is the painting as to, well, 1, who it is of, and 2, who painted it. Yeah. It looks to me like a picture of Lennon.
Everybody who's ever seen it, straight away says it's John. Yeah. Even people who don't know that it's John Lennon, or whatever, people who are not in that circle look at it, that looks like John Lennon.
We found that here. People are saying it with no prompting. So I think, likely of John Lennon. Who painted it? I suppose you've got no idea. But no. What I'm hoping is when this video is seen and the press get hold of it, then people will come out of the woodwork and perhaps jog their memories, and maybe someone will know who painted it. Or maybe we'll never know that. But I'm confident that there it was in Kenwood on the video that I've shown you today.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, again, you look at that picture and then the way you've superimposed it with the alterations you need to do to get the aspect ratio correct. It's definitely that picture.
Looks like a match, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, great. Well, thanks for bringing those bits in.
That's okay.
Great to meet you, and good luck in the auction.
Well, that was great, wasn't it? Every time I meet
yeah.
that vendor, we just hear more because, I mean, what a childhood. And the lovely thing is their childhood memories for him, that for us are like, oh my goodness. And I remember saying to him, can you tell me, is there any provenance? And then I literally just sat there with my mouth open because, yes, he did have provenance, and it's amazing. I mean, he's since remembered that when he was a child, he used to go to, because of the association, the friendship his parents had with Ringo Starr, that he would attend Zach Starkey's birthday parties.
Yes, he's told us about that.
And he remembered being in the garden playing with Zach and the other children and looking in through the house, and there's Ringo's drum kit, and he was just in Beatle land, really.
But something you didn't say that I believe he's told you, that he may have taken a ride at least once in John Lennon's Rolls Royce.
His mother and father were also very close with Cynthia and John Lennon, and his mother was she had a very good friendship with both Ringo and John's wives, and he said that he remembers being taken to school in the psychedelic Rolls Royce by John Lennon's chauffeur. Now, how many children? Can you imagine the other kids?
A lot of children would have liked to have said that back then.
Yeah.
So I've looked that up now. That Rolls Royce is in British Columbia in a museum.
Is it?
Yeah, and apparently it's been there for decades.
Oh, amazing.
So I'd rather it was down the road and we could go and have a look. But I'm just glad it's not a story where it got scrapped 15 years ago by someone who didn't know what it was.
I think the lovely thing is that a lot of these memories have been dribbling out just as he sort of, which just is amazing. You think that most people would be going, I used to know John Lennon, But no,
he also said his parents were fairly modest about the association.
Very modest.
Didn't really...
As is he, which is just charming. And the other thing, which was, again, amazing and charming, was that when he came in, he said that his father had quite a large collection of vinyl that had been signed by the Beatles, but he'd had to sell them because he was, I think he had ill health. And I said to him cheekily, well, maybe you could just go back and have another look and make sure. And sure enough, he rang me about an hour or so later and said, you will never guess what I found. And he came back in, and there was a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band signed by all four Beatles. So that's a little
pretty
extra.
Great right there.
And then today, John, what did he...
There's a White Album, there's a Abbey Road with a factory sample sticker, a collection of Beatles oldies. There's two Virgins, John and Yoko.
Yes, and even these vinyls...
not signed, but
not
he said
signed,
were given to him by...
But they were given to the vendor's father by John Lennon and Ringo Starr.
Yeah,
so
there's
again,
a Give Peace a Chance single. Apparently John gave him that. And some of the albums given to him by Ringo. So
yes. So there we are. So very exciting.
Nice little collection.
So we're all ready to do a little bit of early marketing to see
That'd be fun.
Which is always good for a sale, to give it some exposure.
Something that's been in a loft for decades, get it out there into the world.
Well,
so
the picture was put up in the loft because I think the vendor said that his mother was a little bit upset, sort of with the relationship changing between John and Cynthia. And
if she'd been friends with Cynthia.
Yeah, she was upset, and the painting was banished to the loft.
Put away like a portrait of Dorian Gray.
Yes. So yes, another exciting day in the entertainment department.
Yeah. Well, get back to work.
All right. Thanks, John.
I'm going to go and get myself a cup of tea.
I'll get back to work and you have a cup of tea. How's that?
Do you want a cup of tea?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gavel Gang Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe and take a look at the Ewbank's website for more information on this and upcoming auctions. Until next time, going.